Hi, everyone. I am Kerry George with CIBN TV, and I'm going to talk about making money today, which I think is a great topic. A lot of people want to know how to make more money. I'm going to be covering how to make money, and I'm going to talk to you about a few different things here, like 3 different ways that you could be thinking about money. But also, after that, I'm going to get into ways to actually multiply the money that you have currently, because I think if you're going to talk about making money, you got to talk about multiplying money. So let's get started. First of all, I'm going to share my screen today because I have a little thing that I have done a training on this before. I thought you might find it interesting. So basically, we're going to talk about the 3 different ways that you can be thinking about money right out of the gate. And I'm going to talk about thinking about money as an employee, a business owner, or as a entrepreneur. And they're 3 different things. And I will say, as I get started on this, that there's even another way you could think about money that I'm aware of, which is you could think about money in terms of as a charity thinking. I know myself personally, I was in a nonprofit sector for many years. So I had a charity way of thinking where I felt that the time that I spent doing things was, I was giving it away for free. So I wasn't actually trying to collect money during that time of my life. And as a result, I wasn't making any. And the more I hung around people who gave it away for free, and the more that I actually didn't, wasn't in the mindset of looking to make money, the less I made and the worse it got. So I'm going to focus on where most people are at first, and that is thinking like an employee. So let's get started with that. So an employee thinks about money in terms of dollar per hour, okay? So they want to make so many dollars per hour. That's how they feel that they should be paid. Now, I'm saying this is how the average employee thinks, because of course there's always some people who don't. Maybe they've been an employee for years, but they've been around business owners, or maybe they were raised by an entrepreneur. So they may have other mindsets that, are beyond this. But how the average employee thinks is they think about their family and their needs. They need a paycheck. They want to know, am I getting a paycheck every 2 weeks? It's incredibly important for them to get a paycheck every 2 weeks. They're motivated by job security and benefits, and they want to work an 8-hour day and then get off for the rest of the day. They don't like risks. And they don't actually do a lot of research about particularly, let's say a company, let's say they were approached with an opportunity to join a direct sales company or to buy a franchise or something like that. And their idea of where they would do the research is they would go to Google and they would just Google it and they would believe whatever Google told them. And most of them would not do anything like read Fortune magazine or pick up Forbes or ask a mentor who's successful or anything like that. They wouldn't think to do that. They would just go to Google because that's where everybody goes. And they also often don't think about paying for their own training, because if you've been an employee all your life, you think other people should pay for your training because that's how it is on the job. If they want you to upgrade your skill, they send you to get more training. So the average employee thinks that somebody else should pay for that training. They don't really realize that I should invest in myself, that I'm the master of my destiny. So oftentimes that's just how it is. When it comes to that dollar per hour thing, I want to dig into that a little bit deeper. So that is called linear thinking. It means that you're only going to make so many dollars per hour. And it doesn't matter how many dollars you make, there's a limit because there's only so many hours in a day. All right. So this is an interesting concept because many employees think that the way they're going to make more money is just get a better job or get a promotion, or it's something to do with moving their position forward. So they don't stop to think about maybe this is a faulty model. Okay. Because if you are in a job where you make $40 an hour and you get a raise to $50 an hour, and you think, wow, that's awesome. That's such a huge difference. There's other problems with this because, for example, when you're an employee, you pay the highest rate of income taxes. Just about every country that I'm aware of, like taxes, those who work at the highest rate. So this, you have no tax deductions at all. And I know one of the things that I learned early in my young life, when I was probably 18 or 19 years old, I left my home and I went out to work for myself, and I got involved with a direct marketing company on the side. I had a job as well, and on my job, I was surprised when I went and got my income taxes done, because I had a large amount of the money that I made. They took right off my check and I never got it back. And that's what happens with employees. But one year I joined this direct marketing company and I was horrible at it. Horrible. It was a recruitment-based opportunity where I had to invite other people to join me. And I just sucked at it. Okay. I was no good at getting people to sign up. I was no good at getting them to stay. It just seemed to be a complete waste of time. But I kept all of my receipts. And at the end of the year, I gave them to my accountant as they were doing my taxes. And lo and behold, I got $6,000 back from the government that year because I had kept track. And you see, I was able to write off a portion of my house because I ran a business. I was able to write off a couple of trips that I had made because I went and saw people while I was doing business across the country or across, I think, North America. And it was really a phenomenal experience. But I wouldn't have known that, except that I kind of fell into it accidentally. And I had this great write-off. And so I learned then that if I had a business, it might be better than just getting dollars per hour, because here I got like a $6,000 bonus just because I had a business, even though I was really bad at it. I just really sucked at it. So, but the average employee doesn't think outside the box like that. And I would encourage you, if you are an employee, start thinking outside the box, because little things like that can make a big difference. The average employee oftentimes doesn't feel like he wants other people working for him, okay, because he feels guilty about profit that he might make from the effort of his peers. And also, an employee tends to log the hours that they put in. They are very careful about, I made sure that I work from 9 till 5 or 8 till 4, and you compare it to the paycheck. Dollars per hour is how an employee understands payment. And it's very short-term thinking, because I've got to get a paycheck every 2 weeks. And therefore, I've trained myself to want rewards immediately. And if I want to make a lot of money, that usually doesn't happen immediately. Okay. That usually what happens when you are getting into something where a lot of money can be made. There are lean years or lean periods of time before it really starts to pay off. So you think about Jeff Bezos from Amazon, right? For years, it didn't look like it was doing anything. In fact, I think they were not showing a profit for the first few years that they were in business, right? But he had good financial backing. They kept going. They had a plan. And over the long haul, they started to make money. Now look at where Jeff is today. Like, wow, right? So you have to have long-term thinking to get that kind of a payout. And if you're in this position where you get paid every 2 weeks and that's all you know, then you get kind of critical if something takes longer than 2 weeks to pay out. So you want to get away from that if you want to make more money. Another thing that the average employee often complains about customer service issues with companies that they work with, because they don't understand how companies work. They don't realize that if I was promised this thing is going to be rolled out at the end of this month and then it's not because they were being mean to you and they didn't want to do it. It's because something technical in the background wasn't working and they wanted to have it right before they put it out. So the average employee, because they have this short-term thinking and they're thinking it's got to be done immediately, that's what was said. They have no understandings about the inner workings of a company. And so they're not willing to wait. And if they bought a franchise or they got involved with a network marketing company or a direct sales business, they often have the feeling that, well, why should I pay for the function? Why should I pay for the education? Because if won't somebody else pay for that for me? Because that's how it works on the job. But when you have a business, that's not how it works. We have to make investments in our own life and our own self. And in fact, it's one of the best things about having a business, because we can control that. We can actually control how much we invest in ourselves. And I don't know about you, but I'm a winning horse. And wouldn't you want to invest in yourself? Aren't you a winning horse? It's a great idea. Anyways, employees often have a huge failure rate in business, especially the first time, because they don't know these things. And when you don't know these things, it's really difficult to move ahead. So let's think about the next one, which is a business owner. Now, a business owner and an entrepreneur are two different things. I'm going to get to the entrepreneur in a minute. A business owner thinks in terms of percentage increase. Okay. So how is percentage increase different than, say, dollars per hour? Well, if I work dollars per hour, I can maybe get more dollars, but I can never get more hours, right? So even if I made $250 an hour because I maybe am a doctor or something like that, that sounds really awesome. But there's also overhead that comes with being a doctor. Things like, having an office, having staff, people to answer the phones, book the appointments, all that kind of stuff. So the $250 an hour sounds really awesome at first until you do all that math. But the thing is, they're locked in because there's only so many billing hours that they have in a day and in a week. Okay. Now, a business owner thinks differently about that. They might say, well, I'm going to buy like a pen or something like this, and I'm going to sell the pen. I'm going to buy it for $1, and maybe I can sell the pen for $1.60, and I can have a percentage of increase. So maybe that's how I'm thinking I'm going to make more money. With many business owners, that's how they get started in business. And again, there are some advantages of that because it's better in many ways than dollars per hour, because with percentage increase, you can add other products, you can do other things to keep that percentage of increase going up. You can also have other employees working for you, which every time you have an employee and you're maybe billing out for $100 an hour, but the employee is only being paid $25 an hour, the difference in margin is a percentage increase, okay? And that is another way that we can make money. But the business owner also has some limitations. And again, I'm talking about the average business owner, because some business owners still think like employees. And some business owners actually have some ways that they think like an entrepreneur. And even when I get into talking about entrepreneur, there are those that are a brand new entrepreneur that are kind of immature in their ways. And then there are those that are very mature in their ways that actually know how to multiply money. So let's talk about how an average business owner thinks. Well, the average business owner increases their money through percentage increase. And they have a lot of responsibilities with that. They think about their employees, their duty to their family. They tend to watch very little television. If you ask people that are employers, they tend to be really wrapped up in their business. They often don't take time to relax. They do often work beyond the regular hours of 9 to 5. In fact, many business owners don't own their business. Their business owns them, okay? They are there early in the morning, putting out fires, wearing many different hats. They're working late, trying to keep the business going. And they really are concerned about the people who work for them and their family. They don't like to take as big a risk as, say, someone who might be an entrepreneur, but they also don't take they're not like an employee who doesn't like to take any risks. They will take some measured risks. This is really important, by the way, if you are trying to sell investment products to somebody, whether they're an employee or they are an employer or an entrepreneur, okay? So the guy who is an employee, he often feels very comfortable with the 2 to 5% growth margin, thinks that's not too shaky. We could, trust that. But when you're talking to a business owner, he knows about marking these products up, his own products. So he understands that there is this percentage of increase. There's a margin there, okay? So as he understands that for himself, he also, in the investments that he makes, thinks about that and goes, well, I would be comfortable with 5% to 10%, maybe even 15% of an increase in an investment. And that wouldn't be too crazy for him. But an entrepreneur would not even be interested in that because he wants to multiply his money. So we'll get to that in a minute. The average business owner, though, does not really care about job security or benefits for himself as much as he does about supplying that for his employees. So really very duty bound, wants to get things done for the people that works for him. He does understand research better than many employees do because the business owner built his own website or he paid someone to do it. So because he did that, he realizes that you can put anything you want on Google, right? So he's not really buying into everything he reads, whether it's in the news or whether it's on Google or whether it is, personal research that he's doing. They're pretty open-minded about looking at this side versus that side. And yes, they may have an opinion that leans one way or the other, but they're often a bit more well-read and really thinking about where the information is coming from, because they know that they could have put it there themselves, so they get that. They also understand that businesses have costs. So if you talk to them about starting another business or being in a franchise or being part of a recruitment-based opportunity, that business owner knows that he has to invest in himself, gets that, because he's had to invest in himself already with his own business. And he understands that the concepts that other people can work for him or that he can build a team. So anything that has to do with residual thinking, like I can work once and get paid more than once for that, he gets that because he's seen it before. He might not operate it completely yet, but he knows that it's out there. He's more open-minded about it. The average business owner understands delayed gratification. He'll often work on a project for a few months before he gets paid because he understands that if I spend money on marketing, it doesn't come in tomorrow. I put the money out for marketing and it takes 3 months, 6 months, or a year for the marketing to pay off. So that gives them this feeling of, delayed gratification might be something I should work towards. He understands what it takes to market his services. He's more likely, if he gets into a new opportunity, to actually pay for his own learning, to increase his knowledge because he knows that these things cost money. He's had to do it before. He has an 80% chance of success in a network marketing company or a residual-based income business like that, or even in a franchise, because he sees the value of systems. Even if he hasn't put them into place in his own business yet, he knows he should. He's been around a little bit, seen some things. Now, the entrepreneur multiplies money and everything about themselves. And I'm just going to stop sharing my screen here for a second and just come back to you here for a minute so that you can see my face a little bit. So entrepreneurs are a whole other animal. Entrepreneurs actually think in terms of multiplication. Okay, so an entrepreneur isn't interested in buying this pen for $1 and marketing it up for $1.60. Okay, not interested. That is a waste of time in the minds of most entrepreneurs. They would want to actually buy this book and pen maybe for $2, and they want to be able to sell it for 6, 8. They want to double, triple the amount of money that they get back on it. And their thinking is that pen should have enough value that somebody's going to want to buy it for 2 or 3 times what I spent for it. And they're going to want to buy more than one because it's really that good of a deal. And I would like to actually be able to sell it by the truckload. Okay. And even better if I had multiple distribution centers all across the country or even across the world. That's how an entrepreneur thinks. It's really, really different thinking. An entrepreneur thinks about multiplication almost like in the terms of planting a seed. Okay, just think about this. If you put 1 corn seed in the ground and it grows, it doesn't give you 2, right? There's actually 2 or 3 cobs of corn on the stalk, and there's like thousands of these corn seeds on one of them. And that is how an entrepreneur thinks. He thinks in terms of multiplying. Multiplying is so different than trying to grow by percentage increase or trying to get dollars per hour. It's a huge, huge difference in how they think. So I'm going to go back here and just share again on this here. Okay, so the entrepreneur is multiplying money and also thinks in terms of multiplying everything about his business. Okay, so how the average entrepreneur thinks, well, he thinks that money is made to multiply. He thinks about how to create more profit and multiplication and expansion. Seldom does he watch television. Often the entrepreneur doesn't even know what's on television. He's motivated by risk, and he doesn't like the subject of job security and benefits, and he likes everybody to be independent. And particularly when an entrepreneur is young in his entrepreneurialism and not yet mature, they often, don't think about ways to pay people better or to keep employees long term. They're more motivated, they're motivated in a different way. So they don't quite understand why other people aren't motivated. So it takes them time to figure that out so that they know how to give good benefits to employees. The average entrepreneur thinks it's very busy, that they're very busy. So getting their time and their interests can be difficult. But if you actually put something in front of them that they realize works and they put the effort in, they usually catch on really quickly because they understand systems. And they do their research differently than employees or the average employer who's just a business owner. Okay, they read books like Fortune and Forbes, and they read books by Robert Kiyosaki. They don't care what someone's opinion might be about Donald Trump. They might read his book anyway, even if they don't like him, because they realize he might know something. They also they read things like by Dale Carnegie, and they're collectors of knowledge. The average entrepreneur will actually overwork for no pay if the dream is big enough and they think they can do it. And they have a huge sense of delayed gratification. You ever meet an inventor who invented something and put all their time and effort into that, and they just worked and worked and worked, and it didn't pay off for 25 years, or maybe it never paid off at all? Okay, that is kind of how an entrepreneur thinks, except that would be one that lacked maturity. Because a mature entrepreneur would realize it needs to pay, and they would be looking for the multiplication of the money. Where someone who is kind of new in that, kind of like a baby entrepreneur, they're looking at the big picture and the dream for later, but they're not being practical about what's happening right now. So there's different levels of maturity in these things as well. If you invited them to join, for example, a direct sales opportunity or to buy your franchise, they'd go to the big function. They would pay for all of that stuff. They would pay for their education. They would call it fun time to go to a weekend away for that kind of a trip. And they might sometimes try to rewrite the plan to get things done. But if you have a great system, they're going to adopt your system eventually because they see that it works. Very likely to succeed in franchise opportunities, very likely to succeed in direct marketing opportunities. So these are three different ways that people can be thinking about money in the first place, okay? And if you want to make more money, I'm going to give you three things right now that will help you make more money. And we'll even talk about some methods, okay? So the first thing is, number one, you have to change the way you think, because if currently you think like an employee, and you want to be a multimillionaire, okay, or a billionaire, which there's many billionaires today, it's not out of the realm of possibility to even do in 5-10 years. It's possible. It's been done. Other people have done it, and they've done it even quickly. But the first thing that has to change in most cases is the way we think. When we are thinking it's impossible, it can't be done, well, you'll get what you think, right? Henry Ford said that if you think it to be true, it is true, right? I'm paraphrasing. That's not exactly the quote, but he just basically said, if you think you can, you can't. You can. But if you think you can't, you can't. So it's how you think is really important. And if you know that if I know I currently think like an employee, but I really want to learn to multiply money, then I got to learn to think like an entrepreneur. So I got to expand my mind. And how do I change how I think? Well, I change what I read. I change who I associate with. I change what I watch on TV, on YouTube, on different, ways that I can fill my mind up. That's how you change, how you think. You talk about what you're thinking with other people who are also of like mind, and you get conversations going. That changes how you think. The longest distance that we're ever going to have to travel ever is 6 inches. It's this 6 inches right here between our ears, okay? Because we get all wrapped up in the way that we think, and we always think we're right. Well, if your bank account is empty, You're not right. Not when it comes to financial things, right? The proof is in the pudding. So, we have to change the way that we think so that we can move forward. That's number one. Number two, you need a vehicle. Okay. And I mean, you can have more than one vehicle. I'm going to talk about that in a second. But in the beginning, you need at least one. You need a vehicle that is going to pay you well. And it should be a vehicle that multiplies money. So, what could that possibly be? When you are having a job and you're going to work and you're working for 8 hours a day, every day, I know people feel tired. They feel like, I don't have time to do anything else. Okay, then let's stop asking for more. Enjoy what you have, because that's all you're going to have. Because you can't work dollars per hour and become a millionaire. Not really. I mean, you could invest some on the side, but you'd have to take higher risks than 2% in order to turn into being a millionaire, right? This makes sense. This math. So what could you possibly do to increase that? Well, you could perhaps do something on the side, right? You could perhaps, have a side hustle that you did on the weekends. You could buy or sell things. You could rent stuff out. Those would increase the amount of money that you have to work with. And then if you took your money and you put it to work for you, invested in things that multiply. Maybe you buy some of those vendor machines, right? So they're working while you're working, and on the weekends you go fill up your vendor machines. Crazy idea? Lots of people do that kind of stuff. Fill up those vendor machines, and they take the money they get from that and they buy property with it. And real estate does multiply in money over time. So that's not a horrible idea. It's one way. There's all kinds of other things that you could do. You could rent stuff out. That's also fairly passive, because if you had people coming to your home to pick up the things that they were renting from you, and they did that like Thursdays and Fridays over the weekend, brought it back on Mondays in the evening, that is additional income that, again, money could be put to work in something else that made money. Even if you owned 3 houses instead of 1 house, do you know that most of the population in North America never owns 3 houses at once? And that would actually put you in the top 5% of income earners. You wouldn't be a billionaire, but you'd be better off when you retire than if you only had 1 house. And most people, what they don't realize is that you still are paying the same mortgage for 1 house as you would for 3, because you have other people renting out those houses. So the costs are being covered. Is that interesting? So, I mean, there's just different ways that you can do these kinds of things. You just got to think outside the box. You can buy a business that already makes money. Hello? You can buy a business that already makes money. And you could buy it where it already has staffing in place, and you're not the guy who's going to be running it. If you're the guy who's going to be running it, you're not going to multiply any money there. I can tell you that right now, because you're going to get bogged down in the day-to-day happenings of that business. But let's say you bought a business that was like a storage facility, and it came with staff and other people were working that. Guess what? That's money coming in and going out, and there's some profit that happens every month. If you bought a business like that, it has cash flow. See what I'm saying? What if you bought another one? So these are ways that you can multiply money that you might not have ever thought about. You can have multiple income streams. Okay, so we talked about having a good vehicle, but what about having more than one? One word of caution, I would say at the beginning of that, just a qualifier. Get one that's making money before you start actually adding additional ones, okay? Because there is no success guru anywhere in the world who says distraction is the key to success, because it's not. Focus is the key to success. You can watch one of my other videos about that, all right? But it is important to have multiple streams of income. Just build up one, get it going, and get it functioning so that it's easy for you to follow and do the things that need to be done. Maybe you have other people in charge of it already, and then you go on to the next thing. Add additional income streams. So what kind of additional income streams? Well, maybe you could write a book and the marketing of that book maybe is done online and it continues to bring in money while you're sleeping. Maybe there's some other product or service that you could sell online. You could have an online store, but the fulfillment center should be done by somebody other than you if you're really trying to multiply money. If you're the one who's doing everything all the time, you can't multiply your money because there's only 24 hours a day and you're still thinking like an employee. You can't think like an employee and get paid like Bill Gates. Okay? You have to transition your thoughts over to what does it mean to multiply? Well, it means having other people covering other things, and it can't be just you doing it anymore. So these are a few different ways that you could do it. You could buy and sell things, right? For years, I've had people in my life who bought things like cars, did a little work on them, fixed them up and sold them for more. Now, if you're just taking that money when you sold the car and you go spend it on something, that's eating your investment. And you can't multiply like that. You have to actually take the money that was extra money and put it into an additional investment that's going to multiply. All right? That's the trick. You can't actually just keep spending it because that's just living hand to mouth and you're never going to multiply money like that. So just a few ideas on how to make money. By the way, feel free to write down some of your own ideas in the comments below. And also, reach out if you have questions. I'm going to post our contact information and stuff in there. I'm with CIBN Connect, and you find us at thecibn.com. We help business owners. We help them make more money. And oftentimes, we help them figure out things like in our mastermind program, how to add on pieces to their business to make more money. So I hope that you got something great watching this video today. Please like and subscribe to the channel and check out some of our other videos on how to prosper and how to be more successful as a business owner. I'm Kerry George. I'm with CIBN TV and hope to see you soon. Happy capitalism.